These are the HVAC controls on a McLaren MP4-12C. It's the same thing that's used in a McLaren 650S. And these displays are known to go bad. It's a known problem, it's very common, and it's covered under warranty if you've still got a warranty on your car. However, it still happens again when you use the McLaren part. The problem lies in the design itself. There's a maximum voltage, say 20 volts, and there's a tolerance of, say, maybe 10%. So you can be 0.2 volts off and it will still work fine. However, there are instances where it goes to a maximum brightness that goes over that threshold. So maybe 19.9 volts or exactly 20 volts. Eventually, these burn out because of that. I've got a new display to replace this with that doesn't have any of these problems, and there's a link in the description below where you can buy these displays. But I'm going to show you how to change out this display in very short time. First things first, this is an original display. These are the ones that will eventually burn out. And McLaren wants you to replace the entire module, the whole controller. The driver's side has extra buttons on it, so that one's over $1,600. The passenger side has fewer buttons on it, that one's over $1,400, so we'll just average it at $1,500 a piece. So they want you to spend over $3,000 plus labor just to get these screens fixed when you're replacing extra things with the climate controls that aren't even bad, but that's what you have to do to replace these screens. So this is the factory one, and this is the replacement. Now it does look a little bit different, and once we get into the installation, I'll show you why. Everything from the outside appearance looks identical, but once it's installed, it's going to be a little bit different. The backside, you could tell, is quite a bit different. This design has been backwards engineered and improved. So this is an OLED screen, and the electronics have been adjusted so we don't continuously have the burnout issue. So once you replace these once, it should never happen again. Unlike these that will still continue to burn out. And I think even if you replace the entire module, it's probably still gonna burn out. But these are an improved version, found the problem, so we're gonna replace it with parts that will not go bad. So now let's get to the installation. It's pretty straightforward. First notable thing, if you roll your window down, that reduces the risk of you hitting your head on it, depending how tall you are. I'm sitting on the tub sill, so it gives you a little bit of extra headroom so you don't hit the door up there. But to get this panel off, which is step one, it is very easy. You can use a plastic panel removal tool if you would like, if you feel comfortable that way, but you can do it by hand without any tools at all. This whole piece just comes straight out. So if you kind of grab the edge and kind of pull on a little bit, you want to make sure you come straight out and don't pry up. The whole thing comes out like so. Very easy. Now there is one screw right about here on the bottom side. That screw is a T15 Torx. Now I've got this handy dandy tool that is ratcheting. This extension makes it pretty easy to get way up in there. You just have to avoid hitting the speaker here, and you can loosen it using this, but it is possible to do this with a regular screwdriver, a T15 screwdriver. I've done it before. So you can get in there, you just have to be aware about hitting the speaker. Using these will make it a little bit easier to get up in there because it is kind of narrow, but also it will help in prevent in hitting the speaker causing any other damage. Now once you've got the screw loose, one thing that does help is, so you don't want to lose the screw, if it is trying to stay in there, is you can pull up on this while you're unscrewing it, so kind of pull it out this way and the screw will actually stay in there. That'll make it a little bit easier when you go to put this back in. But once you've got this loose, you can simply pull this up, and that's all there is to it. We've got one small plug here, and that is all the electronics on this one. The other side is also very similar. So now that we have this piece out, we have to get the screen out, which means we have to separate the front panel from the rest of this. These four screws on the back are T10 Torx, so we'll get these out to separate this. Now with these loose, we've got this panel apart. That's part 1 of the challenge. Now we can get to this piece, which just comes right off. And because we've already got prototypes in here, we've got these little notches. And with these notches, we could potentially pop the screen back out. But remember, the factory ones doesn't have that, which is why the new ones do. So we can't exactly pry out too easily. You could possibly do it, but you do run the risk of cutting yourself or maybe marring up the rest of this panel, something else. So if you don't want to do that, we can take this whole thing apart. So there's little clips right here, and we can just take a screwdriver and pop these clips out to separate the back side of this. A pick tool will also work. You want to make sure when you're popping this loose that you keep force where you've already gone, because it will try to pop back into place if you don't. Now that we've got this apart, we have to take this board and pry it out of the back, and we can do the same thing. You do want to use some care, but it does come up easily. This end is the end with the actual physical plug. So we pop this up, pop that out. We've got our silicone piece here, and there is the back of the screen. We can just pop that right back out. So now from here, we can assemble this entire thing back and then put the screen back in through the front. So we go back in reverse order. We will have silicone piece go in first. Then the board, making sure that we have the plug where it's supposed to go up here. There is only one way that this can physically go in. This is relatively loose. It will float around in there. Then we take our back piece and we'll have plug hole here, plug here. That whole thing clips right back together. And now we can insert our screen right there. So this screen does have a protective film on it. I wouldn't put a whole lot of pressure on that, but if you smudge or anything, you're fine. You can leave this on there until you get it in. Make sure it's firmly pressed in there. And now, before we go to put this front piece back on, we can peel off the screen protector. And there we have that. We still have the piece on the front. You don't want to forget about it. There is a little bit of foam on the back that does make it a little bit sticky on here. Not so much after you go to put it back on, but when you take it off, that is what's holding it in there. There's a ridge that will sit flat in. Then we take our front piece. That will click in, and we look just like we did before, but now we have to put these 4 screws back in. Now remember, when you go to tighten these back down, you don't need a whole lot of torque. I go until it kind of firms up, and that is all that you're going to need. If you go too much, you could strip this out. Remember, you are working with plastics. Now with everything completely assembled, we can put it right back in. So we've got one plug up here. This will sit straight in. There are little clips that will hold in firm, and we've got to go back and tighten the one screw that we had under here. Now with the one screw in, the only thing we have left to do is take our grill and put that right back on. There we are. It is completely swapped. Now we can check and make sure everything works. And it does. We now have a fully functional HVAC display. Reads off and off. When we turn the temperature all the way to low, it's low. When we go to high, it goes red and it's high. Just like the factory ones, only these won't keep going bad. We have very good brightness on these. And all the controls still work the same as they did because they're the factory controls. There you have it. It is that easy to change out these displays, and you can buy these displays in the video description below. Thanks for watching.